football suits that were long enough for me. All of the knees were about 2 inches above my knee, but a football pants, so I decided that that wasn't very good. So I didn't do that. I played in the band, and I sang in the glee club, off key, of course, but a good voice. And I played the trumpet in the band, and in the marching band, I was second chair solo trumpet back then, and I don't know. I don't think I was in the orchestra. Austin was in the orchestra. He played the clarinet. He was a musician. Austin was a student. I got along. Then I graduated in 1937. While I was in high school, I worked too. I worked for Junior Rushton's dad. He had the creamery, and they had a soda fountain, and so I'd go over there and print butter, generally in the morning, and then in the afternoon run the soda fountain, help run the soda fountain, 15 cents an hour. And I remember that one week I made $11 and something at 15 cents an hour. You figure that out. That's a few hours. We had a customer in town, a grocery store that sold farm butter, and he'd call up the creamery every Saturday and have us put bulk butter, just like it was made out in the farm, on a plaque and take it over to a store. And the butter was going for around 30 cents a pound, and he'd get 35 for it. It was just the way things were at the time. Dad was in the bank. Well, Dad was a bank receiver, and in Red Oak we lived. He had one bank there. He had one in Essex, Shenandoah, Clarinda, Stanton, Griswold, Elliott, and Exira. And he had two girls work for him. There were generally, one was up in Exira, and I don't know, the other one was in Red Oak or someplace else, and they'd work back and forth. And he had two attorneys, Judge Ratcliffe, and, well, they call him Judge Ratcliffe, and Judge Swanson were the attorneys that he used primarily. And then in 1936, he was working himself out of a job. He's closing up these banks, getting them received out, selling out assets out. And there was a fellow in town by the name of Hiram Houghton that had a private bank. And so he approached High and said, if you'd take a state charter, I would do the work and get you organized and be the cashier of your bank. And I'd buy 10% of your bank, and then we can set it up as a state bank. So in May of 1936, they started the Houghton State Bank. And there was Oscar Haltman, was from Stanton, and they set an office up in Stanton. Roscoe Kipp was from Elliott. They set an office up there. And Judge Swanson was an attorney there in town that worked for the bank. And then there was Dad. And I think that was about it. There were four outside that had 10% of the bank. So there were 40% against the 60% of the Houghtons. And Dad ran the bank then from 36 on. And I don't know what kind of a salary he got, but I don't think it was much over $3,000 or $4,000 a year at that time. That was a lot of money. And he never wanted to buy land, never wanted to buy a house, never wanted to buy anything anymore, because when he left Montana, he had buying a house and he was buying a ranch, and they went. So he was afraid of that. He bought life insurance, and what she thought was adequate, and it was. He lasted in the bank until he died in 46, and Dad was about 58 years old when he died. So that was kind of a tragic time for us and for Grandma. Mother, I call Mother Grandma, because everybody did. And she was bound determined she wasn't going to live in Red Oak and be a widow like all the other widows in Red Oak. So she moved to Des Moines and ran a girls' school up there for girls that were pre-delinquent, that she worked with the the courts on. And she loved her work, and I think the girls loved Mother. But
What was the school called?
St. Monica School for Girls.
Is it still there?
No,
On
No.
Park Street was
it was on Park Street,
in Des Moines.
down east of Fleur Drive. Let's see what else. Oh, one year when I was in Red Oak in the summertime, Austin would come home from school, and then I was working in the bank, and I got a job in the bank, and Dad, of course, keyed me in, keyed Holton in too, and said, make him work 30 days for nothing, because if he isn't worth it to you, I don't hire him. So I worked 30 days for nothing, and then they put me on at $1 a day. I got $30 a month. And Austin was in school, and then when he'd come home in the summertime, well, then he'd work in the bank and I'd be furloughed. So one summer, I worked for Don Gale, setting up his parts department in the Ford garage in the morning, 25 cents an hour. In the afternoon, I went out and the lifeguard at the swimming pool for 25 cents an hour. And that evening, I went out to the flour mill that the bank had repossessed. They had to have a night watchman to protect their insurance. And so I'd sleep out there for 25 cents an hour. I was making 25 cents an hour every hour of the day. So that was pretty good for a young fellow, you know. That was an exciting time. And my friends would come down and visit with me in the evenings down at the
Farm.
yeah. So it was a good summer. Trying to think of what else.
Well, where were you in the Depression when everything kind of went?
Oh, well, our depression started after World War I with us in Montana, and then we were in Decorah when, well, Dad was in the bank and he could see things happening that he didn't like, so that's when he got out of the bank and got into the receivership for the government. So he had a government job and he was pretty safe. We're dark again, and that held the family together, because back then, I know Dad was making $300 a month when he worked for the government, and that was a lot of money back in the 30s, early 30s. We rented a house in Red Oak. I remember it was a nice 3-bedroom house, completely furnished, for $35 a month. The telephone was about $4 or $5 a month, and electric bill wasn't much over $10. So, but we didn't have television. But it was very comfortable, and we had. I would say that I had better friends in Decorah than I did in Red Oak. Robert Radcliffe was about, and Junior Rushton were about the only two boys I really palled around with in Red Oak. Donald Erickson, who was a preacher's son, Walter Johnson, another preacher's son. I don't know what happened. They didn't instill much religion in me. Walter wasn't a preacher's type. He ended up being president of a college out in Dubuque. So anyway, it was a good life, and I wouldn't have missed it.
I hope you didn't.
Huh?
I hope you didn't.
I forgot about one important thing: going into the service,
Mm-hmm.
and then finding this little lady.
Oh,
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
get to that. That's coming.
That's coming.